सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम,
जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम।
बोलो राम 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 राजा राम,
बोलो राम 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 राजा राम।
बोलो राम 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 राजा राम,
बोलो राम 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 राजा राम।
बोलो राम 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 राजा राम,
बोलो राम 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 राजा राम।
बोलो राम 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 राजा राम,
बोलो राम 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 राजा राम।
जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम,
जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम।
जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम,
जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम।
जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम,
जय सिया राम, जय जय सिया राम।
जय सिया राम,
जय सिया राम,
जय सिया राम,
जय सिया राम।
जय सिया राम। बोले सियावर रामचंद्र की, सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम, 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 श्री कृष्ण शरणं मम।
Hari Om everyone. Can you all hear me clearly? Awesome. Let us go through the invocation Lalita Sahasranamam and then into Bhagavatam. Today we start a new chapter of the same canto, third canto. And today there are little like into the face facts that are being presented. So buckle up, have a good heart to face it. You have been warned. So let us begin. सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Let us begin. ॐ ऐं ह्रीं श्रीं सिन्दूरारुणविग्रहां त्रिनयनां माणिक्यमौलिस्फुरत् तारानायकशेखरां स्मितमुखीमापीनवक्षोरुहां पाणिभ्यां मलिपूर्णरत्नचषकं रत्नोत्पलं बिभ्रतीं सौम्यां रत्नघटस्थरक्तचरणां ध्यायेत्परामम्बिकाम् अरुणां करुणातरङ्गिताक्षीं धृतपाशाङ्कुशपुष्पबाणचापाम् अणिमादिभिरावृतां मयूखैः अहमित्येव विभावये भवानीं पद्मासनस्थां विकसितवदनां पद्मपत्रायताक्षीं हेमाभां पीतवस्त्रां करकलितलसद्धेमपद्मां वराङ्गीं सर्वालङ्कारयुक्तां सततमभयदां भक्तनम्रां भवानीं श्रीविद्यां शान्तमूर्तिं सकलसुरनुतां सर्वसम्पत्प्रदात्रीं सकुङ्कुमविलेपनामलिकचुम्बिकस्तूरिकां समन्दहसितेक्षणां सशरचापपाशाङ्कुशाम् अशेषजनमोहिनीमरुणमाल्यभूषाम्बरां जपाकुसुमभासुरां जपविधौ स्मरेदम्बिकाम्. ॐ श्रीमाता श्रीमहाराज्ञी श्रीमत्सिंहासनेश्वरी चिदग्निकुण्डसम्भूता देवकार्यसमुद्यता उद्यद्भानुसहस्राभा चतुर्बाहु समन्विता रागस्वरूपपाषाढ्या क्रोधाकाराङ्कुशोज्ज्वला मनोरूपेक्षुकोदण्डा पञ्चतन्मात्रसायका निजारुणप्रभापूरा मज्जद्ब्रह्माण्डमण्डला चम्पकाशोकपुन्नागसौगन्धिकलसत्कचा कुरुविन्दमनिश्रेणी कणत्कोटीरमण्डिता अष्टमी चन्द्रविभ्राजदलिकस्थलशोभिता मुखचन्द्रकलङ्काभा मुगनाभिविशेषका वदनस्मरमाङ्गल्य गृहतोरणचिल्लिका वक्त्रलक्ष्मीपरीवाह चलन्मीनाभलोचना नवचम्पकपुष्पाभा नासादण्डविराजिता ताराकान्तितिरस्कारी नासाभरणभासुरा कदम्बमञ्जरीक्लुप्तकर्णपूरमनोहरा ताटङ्गयुगलीभूता तपनोडुपमण्डला पद्मरागशिलादर्श परिभाविकपोलभूः नवविद्रुमबिम्बश्रीनक्कारिरदनच्छदा शुद्धविद्याङ्कुराकारा द्विजपङ्क्तिद्वयोज्ज्वला कर्पूरवीटिकामोदा समाकर्षितिकन्तरा निजसल्लापमाधुर्या विनिर्भत्सितकच्छपी मन्दस्मितप्रभापूरा मज्जत्कामेशमानसा अनाकलितसादृश्या चिबुकश्रीविराजिता कामेशबद्धमाङ्गल्य सूत्रशोभितकन्दरा कनकाङ्गदकेयूरा कमनीयभुजान्विता रत्नग्रैवेयचिन्ता कलोलमुक्ता फलान्विता कामेश्वर प्रेमरत्नमणिप्रतिपनस्तनी नाभ्यालवाल रोमाली लता फलकुचद्वयी लक्षरोमलताधारतासमुन्नेय मध्यमा स्तनभारदलन्मध्या पट्टबन्धवलित्रया अरुणारुण कौसुम्भ वस्त्रभास्वत्कटीतटी रत्नकिङ्किणीकारम्या रशनादामभूषिता कामेशज्ञात सौभाग्यमार्दवोरुद्वयान्विता माणिक्यमकुटाकारा जानुद्वयविराजिता इन्द्रगोपपरिक्षिप्त स्मरत्तूर्णाभजङ्गिका गुडगुल्फा कूर्मपृष्ठा जयिष्णुप्रपदान्विता नाकादीतिथि संचन्ना नमज्जनतमो गुणा पदद्वय प्रभाजाला पराकृतसरोरुहा सिञ्जानमणिमञ्जीर मंडित श्रीपदाम्बुजा मरालीमन्दगमना महालावण्यसेवतिः सर्वारुणानमद्यांगी सर्वाभरणभूषिता शिवकामेश्वराङ्कस्था शिवा स्वाधीनवल्लभा सुमेरुमध्यशृङ्गस्था श्रीमन्नगरनायिका चिन्तामणिगृहान्तस्था पञ्चब्रह्मासनस्थिता महापद्माटवीसंस्था कदम्बवनवासिनी सुधासागरमध्यस्था कामाक्षी कामदायिनी देवर्षिगणसङ्घाता स्तूयमानात्मवैभवा भण्डासुरवधोद्युक्ता शक्तिसेना समन्विता संपत्करी समारूढ़ा सिन्धुरव्रजसेविता अश्वारूढ़ाधिष्ठिताश्व कोटिकोटिभिरावृता चक्रराजरथारूढ़ा सर्वायुधपरिष्कृता गेयचक्ररथारूढ़ा मंत्रिणी परिसेविता गिरिचक्ररथारूढ़ा दंडनाथा पुरस्कृता ज्वालामालिनिकाक्षिप्त वह्निप्राकारमध्यगा भण्डसैन्यवधोद्युक्ता शक्तिविक्रमहर्षिता नित्यापराक्रमाटोपा निरीक्षणसमुत्सुका भण्डपुत्रवधोद्युक्ता बाला विक्रमनन्दिता मंत्रिण्यंबा विरचिता विषंगवदतोषिता विशुक्रप्राणहरणा वाराही वीर्यनंदिता कामेश्वर मुखालोक कल्पित श्री गणेश्वरा महागणेश निर्भिन्ना विघ्नयंत्र प्रहर्षिता भंडा सुरेंद्र निर्मुक्ता शस्त्र प्रत्यस्त्रवर्षिणी करांगुलिनखोत्पन्ना नारायण दशाकृति महापाशुपतास्त्राग्नि निर्दग्धासुर सैनिका कामेश्वरास्त्र निर्दग्धा सभंडासुरशून्यका ब्रह्मोपेन्द्र महेन्द्रादि देव संस्तुत वैभवा हर नेत्राग्नि संदग्ध काम संजीवन औषधि श्रीमद्वाग्भव कूटैका स्वरूप मुखपंकजा कंठादक्कटि पर्यंत मध्यकूट स्वरूपिणी शक्तिकूटैकतापन्ना कट्य धोभागधारिणी मूलमंत्रात्मिका मूलकूटत्रयकलेवरा कुलामृतैकरसिका कुलसंकेतपालिनी कुलांगना कुलांतस्था कौलिनी कुलयोगिनी अकुला समयांतस्था समयाचार तत्परा मूलाधारैकनिलया ब्रह्मग्रंथि विभेदिनी मणिपूरांतरुदिता विष्णुग्रंथि विभेदिनी आज्ञाचक्रांतरालस्था रुद्रग्रंथि विभेदिनी सहस्रारांबुजारूढ़ा सुधासाराभिवर्षिणी तटिल्लता समरुचे षट्चक्रोपरि संस्थिता महाशक्ति कुंडलिनी विसदंतुतनीयसी भवानी भावनागम्या भवारण्यकुठारिका भद्रप्रिया भद्रमूर्तिर्भक्त सौभाग्यदायिनी भक्तिप्रिया भक्तिगम्या भक्तिवश्या भयापहा शांभवी शारदाराध्या शर्वाणी शर्मदायिनी शांकरी श्रीकरी साध्वी शरच्चंद्र निभानना शातोदरी शांतिमती निराधारा निरंजना निर्लेपा निर्मला नित्या निराकारा निराकुला निर्गुणा निष्कला शांता निष्कामा निरुपप्लवा नित्यमुक्ता निर्विकारा निष्प्रपंचा निराश्रया नित्यशुद्धा नित्यबुद्धा निरवद्या निरंतरा निष्कारणा निष्कलंका निरुपाधिर्निरीश्वरा नीरागारागमथनी निर्मदा मदनाशिनी निश्चिंता निरहंकारा निर्मोहा मोहनाशिनी निर्ममा ममताहंत्री निष्पापा पापनाशिनी निष्क्रोधा क्रोधशमनी निर्लोभा लोभनाशिनी निस्संशया संशयग्नि निर्भवा भवनाशिनी निर्विकल्पा निराबाधा निर्भेदा भेदनाशिनी निर्नाशा मृत्युमथनी निष्क्रिया निष्परिग्रहा निस्तुलानी लचिकुरा निरपाया निरत्यया दुर्लभा दुर्गमा दुर्गा दुःखहंत्री सुखप्रदा दुष्टदूरा दुराचारा शमनी दोषवर्जिता सर्वज्ञा सान्द्रकरुणा समानाधिकवर्जिता सर्वशक्तिमयी सर्वमंगला सद्गतिप्रदा सर्वेश्वरी सर्वमयी सर्वमंत्रस्वरूपिणी सर्वयंत्रात्मिका सर्वतंत्ररूपा मनोन्मनी माहेश्वरी महादेवी महालक्ष्मीमुड़प्रिया महारूपा महापूज्या महापातकनाशिनी महामाया महासत्वा महाशक्तिर्महारति महाभोगा महेश्वर्या महावीर्या महाबला महाबुद्धिर्महासिद्धिर्महायोगेश्वरेश्वरी महातंत्रा महामंत्रा महायंत्रा महासना महायागक्रमाराध्या महाभैरवपूजिता महेश्वर महाकल्पा महातांडवसाक्षिणी महाकामेश महिषी महात्रिपुरसुंदरी चतुष्षष्टुपचाराढ्या चतुष्षष्टिकलामयी महाचतुष्षष्टिकोटि योगिनी गणसेविता मनुविद्या चंद्रविद्या चंद्रमंडलमध्यगा चारुरूपा चारुहासा चारुचंद्रकलाधरा चराचर जगन्नाथ चक्रराजनिकेतना पार्वती पद्मनयना पद्मराग समप्रभा पंचप्रेतासनासीना पंचब्रह्मस्वरूपिणी चिन्मयी परमानंद विज्ञान घन रूपिणी ध्यान ध्यात्र ध्येय रूपा धर्मा धर्म विवर्जिता विश्वरूपा जागरिणी स्वपंथी तेजसात्मिका सुप्ता प्राज्ञात्मिका तुर्या सर्वावस्था विवर्जिता सृष्टिकर्त्री ब्रह्मरूपा गोप्त्री गोविंद रूपिणी संहारिणी रुद्ररूपा तिरोधानकरीश्वरी सदाशिवानुग्रहदा पंचकृत्यपरायणा भानुमंडल मध्यस्था भैरवी भगमालिनी पद्मासना भगवती पद्मनाभ सहोदरी उन्मेष निमिषोत्पन्न विपन्न भुवनावली सहस्रशीर्षवदना सहस्राक्षी सहस्रपात आप ब्रह्म कीट जननी वर्णाश्रम विधायिनी निजाज्ञारूप निगमान पुण्या पुण्यफलप्रदा श्रुति सीमंत सिंदूरी कृतपजाब्जूलिका सकलागम संदोह शुक्ति संपुट मुक्तिका पुरुषार्थप्रदा पूर्णा भोगिनी भुवनेश्वरी अंबिकानादि निधना हरिब्रह्मेन्द्र सेविता नारायणी नादरूपा नामरूप विवर्जिता ह्रींकारी ह्रीमती हृदया हेयोपादेयवर्जिता राजराजार्चिता राज्ञी रम्या राजीवलोचना रंजनी रमणी रस्या रणत किंकिणी मेखला रमा राकेन्दुवदना रतिरूपा रतिप्रिया रक्षाकरी राक्षसग्नि रामा रमणलंपटा काम्या कामकलारूपा कादंब कुसुमप्रिया कल्याणी जगतीकंदा करुणा रससागरा कलावती कलालापा कांता कादंबरी प्रिया वरदा वामनयना वारुणी मदविह्वला विश्वाधिका वेदवेद्या विंध्याचलनिवासिनी विधात्री वेदजननी विष्णुमाया विलासिनी क्षेत्रस्वरूपा क्षेत्रेशी क्षेत्र क्षेत्रज्ञपालिनी क्षयवृद्धि निर्मुक्ता क्षेत्रपाल समर्चिता विजया विमला वंद्या वंदारुजनवत्सला वाग्वादिनी वामकेशी वह्निमंडलवासिनी भक्तिमत्कल्पलतिका पशुपाश विमोचनी संहृताशेष पाषंडा सदाचार प्रवर्तिका तापत्रयाग्नि संतप्ता समाह्लादन चंद्रिका तरुणी तापसाराध्या तनुमध्य तमोपहा चितस्तत्पद लक्षार्था तिदेक रसरूपिणी स्वात्मानंदल विभूता ब्रह्माद्यानंद संतति परा प्रत्यक्षति रूपा पश्यन्ति परदेवता मध्यमा वैखरी रूपा भक्तमानसंसिका कामेश्वर प्राणनाड़ी कृतज्ञ कामपूजिता श्रृंगार रस संपूर्णा जया जालंधर स्थिता ओड्यान पीठ निलया बिंदुमंडलवासिनी रहो यागक्रमाराध्या रहस्तर्पण तर्पिता सद्य प्रसादिनी विश्वसाक्षिणी साक्षिवर्जिता षडंग देवतायुक्ता षाड्गुण्य परिपूरिता नित्यक्लिन्ना निरुपमा निर्वाण सुखदायिनी नित्या षोडशिका रूपा श्रीकंठार्धशरीणी प्रभावती प्रभारूपा प्रसिद्धा परमेश्वरी मूल प्रकृतिरव्यक्ता व्यक्ता व्यक्त स्वरूपिणी व्यापिनी विविधाकारा विद्या विद्या स्वरूपिणी महा कामेश नयना कुमुद आह्लाद कौमुदी भक्तहार्थ मोभेद भानुमद्भानुसंतति शिवदूती शिवाराध्या शिवमूर्ति शिवंकरी शिवप्रिया शिवपरा शिष्टेष्टाशिष्ट पूजिता अप्रमेया स्वप्रकाशा मनोवाचामगोचरा चिच्छक्तिश्चेतना रूपा जड़शक्तिर्जडात्मिका गायत्री व्याहृति संदा द्विजबृंद निषेविता तत्वासना तत्वमयी पंचकोशांतरस्थिता निस्सीम महिमानित्य यौवनामदशालिनी मदघोर्णित रक्ताक्षी मदपाटलकंठभूः चंदनद्रव दिग्धांगी चांपेय कुसुम प्रिया कुशला कोमलाकारा कुरुकुल्ला कुलेश्वरी कुल कुंडालया कौल मार्ग तत्पर सेविता कुमार गणनाथांबा तुष्टि पुष्टिर्मतिर्धति शांति स्वस्तिमती कांतिर्नंदिनी विघ्ननाशिनी तेजोवती त्रिनयना लोलाक्षी कामरूपिणी मालिनी हंसिनी माता मलयाचलवासिनी सुमुखी नलिनी शुभ्र शोभना सुरनायिका कालकंठी कांतिमती क्षोभिनी सूक्ष्मरूपिणी वज्रेश्वरी वामदेवी वयोवस्था विवर्जिता सिद्धेश्वरी सिद्धविद्या सिद्धमाता यशस्विनी विशुद्धिचक्रनिलया रक्तवर्णा त्रिलोचना खट्वांगादि प्रहरणा वदनैक समन्विता पायसान्न प्रिया त्वस्ता पशुलोक भयंकरी अमृतादि महाशक्ति समृताडाकिनीश्वरी अनाहताब्ज निलया श्यामा भावदनद्वया दंशोज्ज्वलाक्षमालादि धरा रुधिर संस्थिता कालरात्र्यादि शक्त्योघा वृता स्निग्धौदन प्रिया महावीरेन्द्र वरदा राकिण्यंबा स्वरूपिणी मणिपूराब्ज निलया वदन त्रय संयुता वज्राधिकायुधोपेता डामर्यादिभिरावृता रक्तवर्णा मांसनिष्ठा गुणान्न प्रीतमानसा समस्त भक्त सुखदा लाकिन्यंबा स्वरूपिणी स्वाधिष्ठानां जगता चतुर्वक्त मनोहरा शूलाद्यायुध संपन्ना पीतवर्णातिगर्विता मेधोनिष्ठा मधुप्रीता बंदिन्यादि समन्विता दध्यन्नासक्त हृदया काकिनी रूपधारिणी मूलाधारांबुजारूढ़ा पंचवक्त्रास्य संसिता अंकुशादि प्रहरणा वरदादि निषेविता मुद्गौदनासक्त चित्ता साकिन्यंबा स्वरूपिणी आज्ञा चक्राब्ज निलया शुक्लवर्णा षडानना मज्जा संस्था हंसवती मुख्य शक्ति समन्विता हरिद्रानैक रसिका हाकिनी रूपधारिणी सहस्रदल पद्मस्था सर्ववर्णोपशोभिता सर्वायुधधरा शुक्ला संस्थिता सर्वतोमुखी सर्वौदन प्रीतचित्ता याकिन्यंबा स्वरूपिणी स्वाहा स्वधा मतिर्मेधा श्रुतिस्मृतिरनुत्तमा पुण्यकीर्ति पुण्यलभ्या पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तना पुलोमजार्चिता बंधमोचनी बंधुरालका विमर्शरूपिणी विद्या वेदा जगत्प्रसूः सर्वव्याधिप्रशमनी सर्वमृत्युनिवारिणी अग्रगण्या चिन्त्यरूपा कलिकल्मषनाशिनी कात्यायनी कालहंत्री कमलाक्षिणी सेविता ताम्बूलपूरितमुखी दाण्डिवी कुसुमप्रभा मृगाक्षी मोहिनी मुख्या मृडानी मित्ररूपिणी नित्यतृप्ता भक्तनिधिर्नियंत्री निखिलेश्वरी मैत्र्यादिवासनालभ्या महाप्रलयसाक्षिणी पराशक्ति परानिष्ठा प्रज्ञान घन रूपिणी माध्वी पानालसा मत्ता मातृका वर्ण रूपिणी महाकैलास निलया मृणाल मृददौर्लता महनीया दया मूर्तिर्महासाम्राज्यशालिनी आत्मविद्या महाविद्या श्रीविद्या कामसेविता श्री षोडशाक्षरी विद्या त्रिकूटा कामकोटिका कटाक्ष किंकरी भूता कमला कोटिसेविता शिरस्थिता चंद्रनिभा भालस्तेन्द्रधनुप्रभा हृदयस्तार विप्रख्या त्रिकोणांतरदीपिका दाक्षायनी दैत्यहंत्री दक्षयज्ञ विनाशिनी दरांदोलित दीर्घाक्षी दरासोज्वलन्मुखी गुरुमूर्तिर्गुणनिधिर्गोमाता गुहजन्मभूः देवेशी दंड नीतिस्था दहराकाशरूपिणी प्रतिपन्मुख्य राकांता तिथिमंडल पूजिता कलात्मिका कलानाथा काव्यालाप विनोदिनी सचामरमावाणी सव्य दक्षिण सेविता आदिशक्तिर्मेयात्मा परमा पावनाकृति अनेक कोटि ब्रह्मांड जननी दिव्य विग्रह क्लींकारी केवला गुह्या कैवल्यपदायिनी त्रिपुरादित जगद्वंद्या त्रिमूर्तिस्थितशेश्वरी त्रक्षरी दिव्यगंधाढ्या सिंधूरतिलकांचिता उमा शैलेन्द्र तनया गौरी गंधर्व सेविता विश्वगर्भा स्वर्णगर्भा वरदा वागदीश्वरी ध्यानगम्या परिच्छेद्या ज्ञानदाज्ञान विग्रह सर्ववेदांत संवेद्या सत्यानंद स्वरूपिणी लोपामुद्रार्चिता लीला क्लुप्त ब्रह्मांड मंडला अदृश्यादृश्य रहिता विज्ञात्री वेद्यवर्जिता योगिनी योगदा योग्या योगानंदा युगंधरा इच्छाशक्ति ज्ञानशक्ति क्रियाशक्ति स्वरूपिणी सर्वाधारा सुप्रतिष्ठा सदसद्रूपधारिणी अष्टमूर्तिरजा जैत्री लोकयात्रा विधायिनी एकाकिनी भूमरूपा निर्द्वैता द्वैतवर्जिता अन्नदा वसुधा वृद्धा ब्रह्मात्मैक्य स्वरूपिणी बृहती ब्राह्मणी ब्राह्मी ब्रह्मानंद बलिप्रिया भाषा रूपा बृहत्सेना भावा भाव विवर्जिता सुखाराध्या शुभकरी शोभना सुलभागति राजराजेश्वरी राज्यदायिनी राज्यवल्लभा राजत्कृपा राजपीठा निवेशित निजाश्रिता राजलक्ष्मी कोशनाथा चतुरंगबलेश्वरी साम्राज्यदायिनी सत्यसंधा सागर मेखला दीक्षिता दैत्य शमनी सर्वलोक वशंकरी सर्वार्थदात्री सावित्री सच्चिदानंद रूपिणी देशकाला परिच्छिन्ना सर्वगा सर्वमोहिनी सरस्वती शास्त्रमयी गुहांबा गुह्य रूपिणी सर्वोपाधि निर्मुक्ता सदाशिवपतिव्रता संप्रदायेश्वरी साध्वी गुरुमंडल रूपिणी कुलोत्तीर्णा भगाराध्या माया मधुमती मही गणांबा गुह्यकाराध्या कोमलांगी गुरुप्रिया स्वतंत्रा सर्वतंत्रेशी दक्षिणामूर्तिरूपिणी सनकादि समाराध्या शिवज्ञानप्रदायिनी चित्कलानंद कलिका प्रेम रूपा प्रियंकरी नाम पारायण प्रीता नंदी विद्यानटेश्वरी मिथ्या जगदधिष्ठाना मुक्तिदा मुक्तिरूपिणी लास्य प्रिया लयकरी लज्जारंभादिवंदिता भवदा वसुधा वृष्टि पापारण्यदवानला दौर्भाग्यतूलवातूला जराध्वांतर विप्रभा भाग्याब्धिचंद्रिका भक्त चित्तकेकी घना घना रोग पर्वत दंबोलिर्मृत्युदारु कुठारिका महेश्वरी महाकाली महाग्रासा महाशना अपर्णा चंडिका चंडमुंडासुरनिषूदिनी क्षराक्षरात्मिका सर्वलोकेशी विश्वधारिणी त्रिवर्गदात्री सुभगा त्र्यंबका त्रिगुणात्मिका स्वर्गा वर्गदा शुद्धा जपा पुष्पनिजा कृति ओजोवती दुधिधरा यज्ञरूप प्रियव्रता दुराराध्या दुरादर्शा पाटली कुसुम प्रिया महती मेरुनिलया मंदार कुसुम प्रिया वीराराध्या विराट रूपा विरज विशतोमुखी प्रत्यग रूपा पराकाशा प्राणदा प्राणरूपिणी मार्तांड भैरवाराध्या मंत्रिणी न्यस्तराज्यदूः त्रिपुरेशी जयत्सेना निस्त्रैगुण्या परापरा सत्यज्ञानानंद रूपा सामरस्य परायणा कपर्दिनी कलामाला कामधुक्कामरूपिणी कलानिधि काव्यकला रसज्ञा रससेवदी पुष्टा पुरातना पूज्या पुष्करा पुष्करेक्षणा परंज्योति परंधामा परमाणु परात्परा पाशहस्त्रा पाशहंत्री परमंत्र विभेदिनी मूर्ता मूर्ता नित्यतृप्ता मुनिमानसंसिका सत्यव्रता सत्यरूपा सर्वांतर्यामिनी सती ब्रह्माणी ब्रह्मजननी बहुरूपा बुधार्चिता प्रसवित्री प्रचंडाज्ञा प्रतिष्ठा प्रकटाकृति प्राणेश्वरी प्राणदात्री पंचाशत्पीठरूपिणी विशृंखला विविक्तस्था वीरमाता वियत्प्रसूः मुकुंदा मुक्तिनिलया मूलविग्रहरूपिणी भावज्ञा भवरोगग्नि भवचक्रप्रवर्तिनी छंदसारा शास्त्रसारा मंत्रसारा तलोदरी उदार कीर्तिरुद्दाम वैभव आवरणरूपिणी जन्म मृत्युजरा तप्त जन विश्रांतिदायिनी सर्वोपनिषदुद्घुष्टा शान्त्यातीता कलात्मिका गंभीरा गगनान्तस्था गर्विता गानलोलुपा कल्पनारहिता काष्ठा कांता कांतार्धविग्रहा कार्यकारण निर्मुक्ता कामकेली तरंगिता कनत कनकताटंका लीला विग्रहधारिणी अजाक्षय निर्मुक्ता क्षिप्र मुग्धा क्षिप्र प्रसादिनी अंतर्मुख समाराध्या बहिर्मुख सुदुर्लभा त्रयी त्रिवर्ग निलया त्रिस्था त्रिपुरमालिनी निरामया निरालंबा स्वात्मा रामा सुधाश्रुति संसार पंक निर्मग्न समुद्धरण पंडिता यज्ञ प्रिया यज्ञकर्त्री यजमान स्वरूपिणी धर्माधारा धनाध्यक्षा धनधान्य विवर्धिनी विप्र प्रिया विप्ररूपा विश्वभ्रमणकारिणी विश्वग्रासा विद्रुमाभा वैष्णवी विष्णुरूपिणी अयो निर्यो निलया कूटस्थाकुलरूपिणी वीरगोष्ठी प्रिया वीरा नैष्कर्म्या नादरूपिणी विज्ञानकलनाकल्या विदग्धा वैन्दवासना तत्वाधिका तत्वमयी तत्वमर्थस्वरूपिणी सामगान प्रिया सौम्या सदाशिवकुटुम्बिनी सव्यापसव्यमा विनिवारिणी स्वस्था स्वभाव मधुरा धीरा धीर समर्चिता चैतन्यार्घ्य समाराध्या चैतन्य कुसुम प्रिया सदोदिता सदा तुष्टा तरुणादित्य पाटला दक्षिण अदक्षिण आराध्या दरस्मेर मुखाम्बुजा कौलिनी केवलानर्घ्या कैवल्य पददायिनी स्तोत्र प्रिया स्तुतिमती श्रुति संस्तुत वैभवा मनस्विनी मानवती महेशी मंगलाकृति विश्वमाता जगद्धात्री विशालाक्षी विदागिनी प्रगल्भा परमोदारा परामोदा मनोमयी व्योमकेशी विमानस्था वज्रिणी वामकेश्वरी पंचयज्ञ प्रिया पंचप्रेत मंचाधिशायिनी पंचमी पंचभूतेशी पंचसंख्योपचारिणी शाश्वती शाश्वतैश्वर्या शर्मदा शंभुमोहिनी धरा धर सुता धन्या धर्मिणी धर्मवर्धिनी लोकातीता गुणातीता सर्वातीता शमात्मिका बंधु कुसुम प्रख्या बाला लीला विनोदिनी सुमंगली सुखकरी सुवेशाढ्या सुवासिनी सुवासिन्यर्चन प्रीता शोभना शुद्धमानसा बिंदु तर्पण संतुष्टा पूर्वजा त्रिपुरांबिका दशा मुद्रा समाराध्या त्रिपुरा श्रीवशंकरी ज्ञान मुद्रा ज्ञानगम्या ज्ञानज्ञेय स्वरूपिणी योनि मुद्रा त्रिखंडेशी त्रिकोणांबा त्रिकोणगा अनघात्मुत चारित्र्या वांछिता अर्थप्रदायिनी अभ्यासादिश अज्ञाता शरद्वातीत रूपिणी अव्याज करुणामूर्तिरज्ञान अध्वांत दीपिका आबाल गोप विदिता सर्वानुल्यंग शासना श्रीचक्रराज निलया श्रीमत् त्रिपुर सुंदरी श्री शिवा शिव शक्ति ऐक्या रूपिणी ललितांबिका एवं श्री ललिता देव्या नाम सहस्रकम जगुः इति श्री ब्रह्मांड पुराणे उत्तरखंडे श्री हयग्रीवागस्त्य संवादे श्री ललिता सहस्रनाम स्तोत्र कथनम संपूर्णम. Let me just come back. Can you all hear me clearly? Let's begin with the invocation for Bhagavatam. सच्चिदानंदरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रय विनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः. यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेदकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुः तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि. ओं नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतः चार्थेष्वविघ्नस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः. तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयः यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि. धर्मः प्रोज्झितकैतवोऽत्र परमः निर्मत्सराणां सतां Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayoन्मूलनम् Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krute Kim va parairishvaraha Sadyo hridyavarudhyate trakritibihi Sushrūshubhistakshanāt Nikamakalpatarorgalitam phalam Shukamukhadamutadrava samyutam Pibata Bhagavatam rasamalayam Muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaah Muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaah. The 30th chapter. Before we get into the 30th chapter, where Bhagwan Kapil Dev Ji is explaining the next aspect of hindrance that comes into every sadhaka's life. And believe me, for almost eternity, as long as there been Sanatana Dharma and Adhyatmika, people always want to find the shortest shortcut possible to achieve the highest of the highest. I want to jump the hoops, reach, and there is some magic touch somewhere, and tada, there is Atma Sakshatkara happening. Yes, present day can blame it on the media, where you have seen a lot of movies on the Purana concepts. Especially you are from southern India, so you have grown up on the NTRs and the MGRs and the Shivaji Ganeshan. So the idea is suddenly there is Devi or Devata that appear and they touch you or bless you or give you something, and tadang, you become a person carrying a halo around you, not hollow. Freudian slip. Yes, those who think that hollow is around are actually hollow. And that is not how it happens. What is the biggest hindrance that we have? The biggest hindrance that we as sadhaka have is called Deha Sakti. To consider that I am this Deha, Sharira. There are three kinds of Sharira, so Sharira would be a good way to say it. Oh my god, I thought I had only one Sharira. Where are these three Shariras? One embedded into the other. Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira. We are identified with it thoroughly through and through. And the new age self-help gurus and self-help books don't help it any which way. These self-help books are a very good feel factor. They might even do a good study of not knowing, but they make a good study of what the anatma vichara is. But where they end up concluding these self-help books, they talk about the various layers, various aspects, and they promote more and more of this identification to strengthen. That is where the Vaidika Sanatana Dharma completely is separate, other than stands far above in the name of spirituality, because as long as we are identified with this Shariratraya, we will be bound. Therefore, Upasana is a must, however intellectual you are. Upasana is a must. If you find a time, okay, when you go to India, go to, whether you are from north, east, west, south, any part of India, there is a Shankara Matha Amnaya. There is a Matha that Bhagwan Adi Shankaracharya Ji has established. In the southern part, there is the Sringeri. In the east, it is the mind is blacked out. It is in Jagannath Puri Ashram. Then in the west, it is the Dwarika Mutt. Then in the north, it is the Joshi Mutt. Any one of these, stay there for about 4-5 days and observe. You will be only observing it from distance. That is how much access that you will have. You will note several nuances. One of the things is, every day there will be some adhyatma vichara by that particular Mathadipati, the Shankaracharya of that Matha. But before they get into any such interactions, the entire predominant aspect of their entire day in the morning is filled with upasana, where there is nityarchana of the Pitha deity, whoever it is, and it is done in its all elaborateness. Now, when Shankaracharyas who are established and who maintain this lineage after lineage, one generation after the other, what are they predominantly occupied in the mornings? In the upasana karma. Why is that upasana made as such a great importance? Because half-baked knowledge that we get, oh, it is all in your head. I feel like saying in Telugu, we say, ni tala, tera sar. No, it is not just in the head. The attachment is through and through this entire Shariratraya. And what does the Saguna Sakara Upasana do? Nikrishta Vastuni Utkrishta Bhavaha. First aspect of Upasana. That in the material that is supposed to be just a material, what you are invoking is that supreme in and through that particular material. And in that material, where are you invoking that Bhagavan or Bhagavat Tattva from? You place your left hand on your heart and right hand you place it on that Vigraha and say that Bhagavan who is residing in my heart be invoked into this Vigraha. And after the puja is done, that Vigraha is again touched and saying, Bhagavan, now please come back into this sanctity of my own heart. Now what happens when you do this Vigraha Radhana or the Nitya Upasana? Let us not get carried away with self-worthiness of thinking that, oh, I cannot bring myself to think about let me come back to the topic. Let us not get carried away by it. See, when our attachment is so strong, it doesn't matter whether how you feel. This is the process and this will help, this will benefit the individual sadhaka to grow out of this Shariratraya Tadatmyata. Tadatmyata is identification, to behave and work like the instruments. So much importance is given to the Sharira. And in the name of spirituality, when you get into the terms of food is just what? About less than 2% of the entire sadhana. We make that a big deal. Oh, I eat sattvic food. Ho gaya? Ab chalo sadhana karo. Yes, you have to maintain that there should be fresh food taken and it should be sattvic. But that is not end all be all kind of sadhana. That is just the beginning of stepping onto the threshold of spirituality. Let that sink in. Because those who get into that oomph of getting into spiritual field, oh, I ate sattvic food. Uske baad, what after that? The focus should be, because even that food ends up being nourishing this body, mind and intellect, this Shariratraya, and to that which we are bound like slaves. As long as we are bound to these three aspects, Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira and Karana Sharira, and keep behaving like the Shariratraya, we are um, totally imprisoned. And we talk about that moksha, which is to that mind which can clearly see that I am bound and I have to work on this bondage. You keep singing, I believe I can fly, I believe I can touch the sky, but get out of the prison. That is when you can. Tied down to that prison, you will be going nowhere. It is like the rearing, charging bull. It sees something in red or orange and it starts huffing and puffing and charges at you. Well, what happens if its neck is tied down to a very strong pole with a chain? However much it may charge, it will be yanked back into that where it is being tied down. Now, if this concept is clear, why this Deha Tadatmyata is being hammered is understood. Is the baseline clear? Otherwise, like, why are they criticizing it so much? This is called Vichara on Deha Tadatmyata. So, therefore, I think Adi Shankaracharya ji also draws inspiration for Bhaja Govindam from these kinds of works. Kapila Mahatma ji starts speaking. He says, Tasyai tasya jano nunam nayam vedoru vikramam kalyanamanopi balinaha vayoriva ghanavalihi. O mother, just like the clouds move about wherever the wind takes them. It reminds me of a very old song. The in between lines I remember. मैं चला जिधर चले रास्ता, तू चला है किधर. Like there is no direction or sense of purpose to the mode of operation. Though we try to fix a lot of direction to our present day work and direction for whatever motive that we have, agenda that we have to fulfill. But Jiva as such keeps moving wherever the wind of karma takes them. And the Kala plays a pretty strong role in that whatever we acquire, whatever we want to cherish and relish, Bhagavan Kala Swarupa, Bhagavan in the form of time. Kala Swarupa is not somebody whose Swarupa is black in color. The Kala here means time. Bhagavan in the form of time only shows us time and again that everything perishes. Nothing can stay permanent. But then, third shloka, Yad adhruvasya dehasya sanubandasya durmatihi dhruvani manyate mohad griha kshetra vasunicha. Adhruvasya dehasya sanubandasya durmatihi. The Shariratraya is adhruvam, is not something that has let alone permanency, doesn't even have stability. The first and foremost that comes into picture is the first strand of hair that turned white, that which you mercilessly plucked, pulled, and threw away. The way I look at it is, that is the first sign given. भैया काले हो, you are dark with the dirt of vasana, become sattvic, become pure, become white. Who likes any such? We pluck it, pull it, throw it away. You have to look at the body, its stamina, its work, its capacity, of what it could, what it is capable of. Then comes the, you become four-eyed or six-eyed. Though this is one glass, there are two lenses, two sets of lenses there. So it is not just four eyes, no, there are six lenses working. And we don't want to put it because it reveals our age. So Karalo operation. Then one by one, the wickets start falling. The front row, then the back row. The Vajradanta becomes Digdanta, like one teeth on each direction. Instead of that, pull everything and then put a set of denture. Then the knee replacement, hip replacement, shoulder replacement, pacemaker. One by one, we have put a support system, not realizing, not understanding that before we reach to the support system, have we stabilized ourselves with respect to this identity, knowing very clear that it is adhruvam. But durmatihi, there is mati, there is buddhi. But in wrong conviction, wherever there is a wrong conviction, that wrong convinced mind or intellect is called durmati. Now, because of this wrong conviction, what happens? It becomes moodhadi. Moodhadi means it will come somewhere. 12th shloka, I think he will say moodhadi. Mohita dhi, vyamohita dhi. That which I know as experience is impermanent, I now start putting all the efforts possible in trying to retain and maintain it as a permanent. Bhagavan, you may have given me hints of white hair. Look here, my creation. I now darken it again. You gave me the hints about the eyes and its lenses. I can operate it. Yeah, for the functionality of it, you have put the support system, but don't we recognize what exactly is happening? All this Vedanta and there is body identification still strong. Tatah kim, tatah kim, tatah kim, tatah kim. That is mentioned by Adi Shankaracharya Ji in that beautiful stotra. Videsheshu manya swadesheshu dhanyah sadachara vritteshu matto na chanyah manaschenna lagnam hare rangripad me tatah kim tatah kim tatah kim tatah kim. Swadesheshu manyah videsheshu dhanyah. You are well respected. People look up to you. And you are the epitome of all that which is amazing, ethical, moral, value, everything. But if that sir doesn't become under the feet of Guru and Bhagavan, what good is it? Then he says, and because of this attachment, now the security has to be established to support this attachment. So what does this individual do? Atmajaya sutagara pashudravina bandhushu nirudha moola hridaya atmanam bahumanyate. Now, to create that support system wherein this identification with this body can be sustained, maintained, and taken care of, there is that story, right? Kaupina samrakshanartham, that is where it stops. The story is that this guru gave this message and knowledge to the student, a very bright student, and after he got that knowledge, Guru went for Tirtha Yatra. In those days, Tirtha Yatra meant 10 to 12 years of Padayatra. So in these 10-12 years, what happened to the Sishya? So the very old hut that he was living in, by the time he would do his bhikshatana and come back to his kutiya, he would find that the few lion cloths that were there, the langoti that was there, that was already bitten and eaten by the rats. So he started asking for a piece of cloth along with his bhiksha. So and there are always these ammas who are trying to find some kind of support system. So this amma said, "Beta, you are asking this piece of cloth almost regularly. What is your problem?" They said, "Ayyo amma, there are so many rats." They said, "Okay, if there is a rat, then the solution, we are solution providers. The solution should be a cat." So she gave them a cat. So then from the next day onwards, he realized that asking for a lion cloth was a better deal than now going around saying, "Give me any kind of bhiksha, but give me a glass of milk also along with it." Why? Cat has to be maintained. So one businessman who saw this fellow asking for milk, he said, "Why do you struggle for asking for a glass of milk and feel so awkward? In my Goshala, there are several cows and buffaloes. Pick one and feed it good grass and you will have milk at home." I said, "Okay." Now there is a cat. Now there is a cow. So the next day he started asking for a bundle of grass, hay. So the guy next door, he said, "I have this empty lot. Why don't you grow your grass and let the cow be fed there? Organic grass-fed cow milk." I said, "ठीक है." Then it was finding it difficult to do his swadhyaya, anusthana, upasana, bhikshatana, and taking care of the plowing of land, a cow and a cat. So I said, "Okay, let me keep, a person that can take care of these." So as the person came, there was no consistency. They were keeping. So finally, he found this lady that said, very sincerely, who would take care of all of these. She was so efficient that she would even bring some life into that hut, wherein things that were not in place, she started putting in place. Nice rangoli in front of that hut, and it looked lively. By the time this guru came back, he saw a beautiful garden with flourishing fields, and now the cows had become a few dozens of them. There were cats and dogs, and there was a beautiful house in place of the hut, and there were chinku tinku pinku minku running around. The guru said, "Did I come to a wrong place, a wrong street, a wrong... what happened here?" So he very hesitatingly, very awkwardly went and knocked the door, and the Shishya overwhelmingly jumped with joy, gave all the Atithya Satkara to his Guru, Sashtanga Dandavat Pranam, Puja Pranam to that feet. And Guru, meanwhile, is still scratching his head, probably singing, Kya se kya ho gaya? What happened to you, man? And the Shishya said, all because of that one Kaupina. So that which I just said through that story, he says in the next 7-8 shlokas, and concluding here says, Kutumba bharana kalpaha mandabhagyo vrutodhyamaha shriya vihina kripanaha. Now this Mudadhi, in order to sustain all the layers of security that he has built, now in order to maintain them, you need a lot of financial support. Now that financial support, you try making the ends meet. In Hindi there is a saying, jitni chadar utni pair. See, if you have a small blanket and it is cold, what do? You put that blanket on the top and then try to accommodate yourself into it. But then it is not comfortable. Now to find comfort, we are creatures of habit, and creatures who love a comfortable habit. The clothes that I wear have to be a certain order. The shoes that I wear should be of a certain order. The place where I sit should be of a certain order. There's a list unending. This is only at a physical level. I have not even touched the Sukshma Sharira and Karana Sharira. In order to support, Ena Kena Prakarena, one way or the other, starts making the ends meet, starts putting so much of effort in maintenance that the effort goes. Another example, I was recently talking to somebody doing PhD in UTD, a young couple in the second year of research, and got married, and he gets a stipend or whatever grant. It's about $1,100 or something, and a married couple, new young family, in 1100 is trying to meet the ends. 1100 per month. That which can be accommodated in that 1100, as soon as you get a job, you get a house, you get cars, you get this, you get that, how much ever you earn, in $1 million house, in the most sophisticated cars, in the most sophisticated security, the best of the school, the best of the supermarket, the best of the locality, the best of the gated community. And whenever I see a gated community, there's a different thought that runs in my head. Even prison is a gated community. Elaborately build it, and you're earning like 150 times more and still not be able to meet the ends. So he says, Swabharana kalpam tat kalatraadayastatha nadriyante yatha purvaha kinasha iva gojaram. What is the frustration level that one feels at that point? It is like trying to plow the entire field with a bull that is almost dried out, half dead. How much can it pull? The frustration is obvious. And after having put all this effort, a huge pause. After having put all this effort, I think it comes in the Yaksha Prashna. What is the most funny thing? Yaksha asks all kinds of questions. What is the most irony of this human life? What is the most funny thing of human life? So Yudhishthira responds, he says, funniest thing of this human life is when you have all energy and all abilities, you spend it in earning a lot. Having earned that much, now what do you do spending that money for? In recovering that health and resources that you have lost in trying to earn this. And by the time you are done, you're done. यावत् वित्तोपार्जन सक्तः तावन् निज परिवारो रक्तः पश्चात् जीवति जर्जर देहे वार्तां कोपि न पृच्छति गेहे. This comes in Bhaja Govindam. I was not asking a question, I was just putting forth that in as an objection. So Vartam Kopina Pruchhati Gehe. That is what happens. After having spent so much of time and energy building all of this, your energies are done, your capacities are done, your abilities have reduced. You are reduced to one room, one bed, helplessly lying down. And how is the treatment of the rest of them? If you have seen, probably mostly only in the movies where everybody is trying to be, after a while when it becomes the acclimatized habitual pattern of existence, seldom people even step into that room to say, how are you, dad? How are you, mom? I was going to Fort Worth for Jnana Yajnas long time ago. And one of the membership had to be in a hospice for a while. So I'd gone there to meet and talk to that Amma. So I went there more than few times. So every time I would take something, baked or something that I would. So there was another person with a curtain. So that person would, a Caucasian guy, would pull that curtain down because somebody visiting. It's always exciting. So would somehow drop into the conversation and would cheer him up also, take a packet of cookies for that fellow also and give. I was sad to note that 4 of his children all live here. One lives in Abilene, one lives in Dallas, one lives in Plano, one lives in Fort Worth itself. There are 2 days in the year that the entire family, 2 or 3 days in the year that the entire family comes to meet and gather with this old person. One is a birthday, the other is a Thanksgiving, and there is one more day. Of the 365 days, to that father who has spent the entire life because of which these 4 children are what they are. Yavat vitto parjana saktaha. As long as you are the hub, the resource, the fountain for the rest of them to find what they need, which is the wealth. Nija parivaro raktaha. Family and relations, stand by. The moment you are not the fountain of resource, while you are still there, you are as much as redundant. And if at that time you want to find some peace, and if you are fortunate enough that somebody advises into the path of some spiritual knowledge and wisdom, what has happened to the indriyas? They are not available. Evam kutumba bharane vyaprutatma jitendriyaha mriyate rudatam swanam. Like, the indriyas have not been ever focused, the mind has not ever been trained, and they have already become completely lost of their energies. That in that age, trying to bring it back and focus, it doesn't happen, because the abhyasa has not been introduced from young age. And in that, when Yamadutas come, this is where I said buckle your belts. The details are, when the Yamadutas come, and the Yamadutas take you to the Yamaloka. How far is this Yamaloka? I think 24th shloka. Yojananam sahasrani navatim navachadvanaha. 99 yojanas. 99 yojanas away is this, not away, the length and breadth of this Yamapuri, the Naraka Puri. Actually, Yamapuri is not Naraka. Yama's office is in Swarga, but his residence is in Swarga, but his office is in Naraka, or in the threshold between the Naraka and Swarga, where he decides who goes where. If this life has been lived to constant Deha Sakti, to maintain any which way, dharmic, adharmic, doesn't matter. We have lived a life to sustain the family, the identities, the securities, the assets, the property, and everything, one way or the other, to constantly maintain that stability. Yena kena prakarena, as I said, any which way that it can justify maintaining all of this. Where, oh, I did not break the rule, I just bent it a little. So even for such, there are several layers and layers and layers of this particular trip to the Naraka. So one or two questions that are often asked, especially with regards to this topic. Is there heaven and hell? Let me put it more in the dharmic perspective. Is there Swarga and Naraka? The answer is a clear yes. It's a different plane of consciousness or a plane of existence, and it does exist. It is a part of this creation itself. Now, what is the standpoint or relevance of it for a Vaidika Sanatana Dharmi? It is a place of via media, that this jiva, the individuality, goes through Swarga Naraka Ityadi Anubhava, finishes whatever is the repercussions of the actions that have been performed. The Vasana is not cleared. That Vasana, to clear it, again be born as a human, if the Vasanas ordain to such a expression. So people get confused. If I have already gone through the Naraka and Swarga kind of experiences, why should I have the karma phala of the last life in this life? See, what you are getting through the, supposing somebody has done something wrong and is caught by the prison system, the police and the justice and the prison system, go through the prison for that particular act that has been performed. It is supposed to be a place where they have to be reformed. Now, when they come back into the society, they will have to start rebuilding and expressing their reformed ways of being, which is again the result of their past actions and how you grow out of it. Similarly, this Naraka and Swarga are an intermediary stages through which the Jiva goes through. And the description of that particular Naraka, Naraka layers that have been described here, there are Tamisra, Andha Tamisra, Raurava, and various such Narakas that people go to. Why? Because we have put the several layers to it. One, at the very outer layer, we have put the effort to sustain this identity and the elaborate security systems that we have established of family relationship, assets, property, and other things that give us that comfort and joy. And in order to sustain that, may have stepped away from the dharma, may have started doing, bribing and illegal and illicit kind of things. All of that have the impact of this on this jiva. Now, the next level of seriousness here is, as long as this jiva is considering himself or herself as this body, mind and intellect, this sharira traya, sthula sukshma karana sharira, because that very conviction and identity that I am this limited ego in itself is the wrong conviction, and thereby that which is done by a wrong conviction cannot be right. So those who are attached to this body, those who are attached to the comforts that are established to support this system of our attachment to this body, where does that individual go? That individual goes into these kinds of naraka, and definitely cannot miss Andha Tamisra. You all have the book with the explanation. Please read the explanation from the 21st shloka to the 31st shloka. I'll leave it at that. Now, once the yatana, through the yatanamaya deha, because the kind of envelopment or a sharira kind of a thing that this jiva gets while going through the experience of this naraka, they get a body called Yatanamaya Deha. Yatanamaya Deha, that which goes through several aspects of pain and suffering, but yet does not decompose or fall apart. Such a Sharira, it is a subtle Sharira, and that subtle Sharira, this Jiva, goes through all the experiences. At that time, this Jiva prays, okay, I have done this, for which this punishment or this kind of yatana that I am going through. This comes in a Upanishadic reference also. That even up unto the point of being in the garbha of the mother, the Jiva remembers all of this. In fact, it seems the Jiva prays at the last moment just before delivery. That, hey Bhagavan, I am now going to be delivered into this world. Let me not go back to the same pattern of these identities. Give me an opportunity to grow. But as soon as the atmospheric pressure hits, this fellow starts crying. All of that is forgotten. This comes as the story of Vamadeva. He is the one that happened to remember all of it, and as he got delivered, did not forget it because of his punya phala of sadhana in the earlier lives. Right from birth, he stayed detached. We have seen the story of Jada Bharata. I mean, that is the most amazing story actually. King Bharata, imagine in the prime of his highest that he has achieved. He says, I now give away everything. He doesn't even disclose where he is going to go settle. Completely detached, goes there. Luckily for him, he has only one attachment that he develops, which is to that deer that he saved. The next life he is born as a deer. He remembered that. As he was born in the next birth as Jada Bharata. Completely detached to the entire system around. And I think Tamil, there is a saying, and the Vambe Venda. Why unnecessarily, put your finger into a ant hole and then cry saying that the ants are biting? Kahe? Let me not be attached to anyone, anything, anywhere. To that point, he remained in an assumed form of being the most inert thing. Therefore, though in that birth also he was named as Bharata, it was often referred to as Jada Bharata, the inert dumb fellow, that who doesn't interact, doesn't respond, doesn't. On the flip side, that deer which came in the satsangatya of this Raja Bharata in that birth, because of the phala of that satsangatya of a sadhu, of a mahatma, that jiva of that deer got the punya phala of being born as nothing less than a king. That king's chariot who the Jada Bharata was forced to carry. Imagine one attachment. For somebody who had detached from everything. And he had led a very pious sattvic life as a renunciate in the Vanaprastha all by himself. One attachment brought everything down. And there's no point running away. One has to work on that attachment and grow out of it. Recognize it, work on it meticulously, step by step, and more importantly, work on the Sharira Tadatmyata. At being attached to this body, mind, and intellect, being attached to this Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and Karana Sharira, and constantly getting irritated, agitated, and feeling insecure at that physical level, at that emotional level, at that intellectual level, constantly staying as an agitated being. You know, that mantra says, Shivoham, 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 Punah Punaha. What do we do as Abhyasa? Irritation oham, frustration oham, disgusted oham, Punah Punaha. And that attachment, that identification with the body, with the subtle body, with the causal body, one has to work. And the only method to start with, to find that stable platform of Antakarana, to find this detachment as possible, is through that upasana. Strengthened by that upasana, then the clarity of conviction has to be changed to the highest and subtlest. Then to recognize one's own true nature. Step by step process. So I'll pause here. I will ask Sushmama to please lead us with Hanuman Chalisa. Let me
Hariam Swamiji.
just give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
There you go.
श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज निज मन मुकुर सुधारी बरनौ रघुबर बिमल जसु जो दायक फलचारी बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरौ पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरौ कलेस विकार जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपी सतिहु लोक उजागर रामदूत अतुलित बल दामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन बरन बिराज सुबेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा हाथ ब्रज और ध्वजा विराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणियति चातुर राम काज करिबेको आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनबेको रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे लाए सजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुबीर हर शूर लाए रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बढ़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सम भाई स बदन तुम रोज सगावे असक श्रीपति कंठ लगावे सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद सारद सहित अहिसा जम कुबेर दिक्पाल चाहते कवि कोविद कह सकई कहते तुम उपकार सुग्रीव कीन्हा राम मिलाय राजपद दीन्हा तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना जुग सहस्त्र जोजन पर भानु लीहो ताहि मधुर फल जानु प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि जलधि लांघि गय अचरज नाही दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुमरे तेते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे, होत न आज्ञा बिन पैसारे। सुख सुख लहै तुम्हारी सरना, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज समारो आपे, तीनों लोक हाकते कापे। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। नासे रोग हरे सब पीरा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा। संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे, मन क्रम बचन ध्यान जो लावे। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे। चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा है, प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नवनिधि के दाता, असबर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुबर पुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म है भक्त कहाई। और देवता चित्तन धरई, हनुमत
हनुमत से
सर्व
ही सर्व सुख करई, संकट कटे ते सब पीरा।
जपत निरंतर
निरंतर
हनुमत
हनुमत
बीरा।
बीरा, कटते हनुमान छुड़ाए। मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लाए, सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा। तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा, और मनोरथ जो कोई
जो कोई
लावे।
लावे,
सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे। चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा है, प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु
साधु
संत
संत के तुम रखवारे। असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे, अष्ट सिद्धि नवनिधि के दाता। सबर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुपर पुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चित्तन धरई, हनुमत से ही सर्व सुख करे। संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करो गुरुदेव की नाई। जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई, छूटई बंदी महासुख होई। जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, हो यह सिद्धि साखी गौरी सा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, की जय नाथ हृदय महडेरा। की जय नाथ हृदय महडेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरन, मंगल मूर्ति रूप। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसौ सुरभूप। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। उमापति महादेव की जय, बोलो भाई सब संतन की जय। सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। थैंक यू स्वामी जी।
Thank you so much,
हरिओम।
Amma. Get
हरिओम।
well. Take care of your throat.
यस।
Harigaru.
ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्। ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्। ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात्।
Thank you, Hari. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्तः शान्तः शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। Harihi Om. Take care, everyone. Hari Om. We will continue with these satsangs through the summer. So even if you travel, you can join us on YouTube so that you don't miss out on